So this is where being online mentally comes in, because that's your power. And how do you use that power? By questioning, not questioning yourself, by questioning your perception. Oh, why am I thinking this right now? Is this actually my thought? Let me think this through. Let me get back to you. Welcome to our energy update on Friday afternoons. My name is Jona Bryndis. I'm an energy healer, energy coach, and visionary. And together we walk through these collective energies that we perceive. And my job here is to work you through those energies and give you a little bit of a sneak peek of what is already there. This can be picked up by people who are trained in energy reading. As many of you know, this is what I do, and you can look this up on transCODES.com. And if you're interested on the comings and goings of collective energies, then subscribe to my email, where I send out regular updates, videos, podcasts, and articles regarding those energies that are coming in. Okay, this week's energy update is called Instruments of Change, and that's omnious a little bit, because you know what we are experiencing right now is no longer the precipice of change, but is actually change. So things are now happening, guys. So for this next week, July 23rd till 30th, you're gonna see what all this sort of pressure cooking energy that we have been feeling here in these last 2-3 months is leading up to. Yeah, everything is going to come to a head in this next week and the 2-3 months until the end of October. Okay, so bam, bam, bam. Remember, that's how I called this in a previous energy update, is fundamentally the outer weather condition that we have. Yeah, it is going to get stormy, it's going to get loud, and it's going to get quite overwhelming if we are walking into this unprepared. And I wanted to go through these instruments of change with you real quick to give you a little bit of an idea of what you can do to protect yourself from getting overwhelmed. Why do we not want to get overwhelmed? Well, it's obviously not a comfortable feeling, but it is something that forces our ego to go into survival mode. And when our ego has to go into survival, it always ends up being fight, flight, or freeze. And for many of us energetically sensitive, fight, flight, or freeze typically is freeze, meaning that we don't know what to do. We're afraid of that confrontation. Yeah, we know it's important to be present, so we don't know what to do. We just stand there and let it happen. And so there's 3 things that I worked out here that I can give you as energy tip for dealing with these incoming energies. Obviously, for more precise and more individualized information about what these opportunities and challenges could be for you, I recommend the energetic tune-ups that I do once a month. This is where I send these energies of the next month through your energy system and see how that contextualizes for you. Why am I using the word contextualize? Because if you take this literal, it is the way you interpret what it is that you're perceiving. And we all know when it comes to truth that that can be relative. However, from spiritual sciences and esoterics and religion and also science itself, we know that there is something like an absolute truth. It's not really the case that, just because I see this as green, yeah, I don't know if you see this right now, it's a little mini stapler, okay, that, you can say, well, no, this is white. And therefore, your perception, how you're seeing this, is untrue. That is not the way this goes. Contextualization has to do with understanding the factors that play into that and how we're choosing to see things. And this is my first tip for you. And if you're part of the Sacred Self-Healing community, then We will do a workshop about the mechanics of that here pretty soon, namely the mechanics of thinking. My first tip for you in regards to the big events that we are going to witness the next week, like within the next 7 and 10 days, is not to believe anything that you haven't thought through yourself, that you haven't thought for yourself. Now, what I mean with that is not that you have to know everything and that you have to have the info, the insider info or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is do not believe outer thoughts that you are being made to think. Do not believe opinions that you are being made to have. Do not believe in anything, and this can even include your friends or your partners or your family, that it gives you an opinion or judgment about something that you yourself haven't fully contemplated, fully thought through. There is a lot of this mind control momentum going on in our world that just blasts out messages. It's so loud for us energetically sensitives. We can hear this, not just like with our ears, but energetically. Okay, they've put this up on turbo now. Okay, these continual opinions and positionalities that we are being blasted with. Okay, and it's something that works against us within ourselves is our ego. The ego has a tendency to repeat things as soon as they feel somewhat familiar. So if you get the same message, that's why this conditioning works so well with us. That's, it's part of our survival a mechanism. We need to have that. But then at a certain point when we are old enough to think for ourselves and to feel for ourselves and to sense and perceive for ourselves, we need to take ownership of that. We need to self-master that. So the fact that we can be conditioned is not bad. That's not weak or anything. That's just part of our human condition. But whether or not we allow that to happen, that depends on our astuteness, on how online we are. Just because you're thinking something doesn't necessarily mean that you've thought this yourself. Just because you have a thought doesn't necessarily mean that that is a thought that came out of your own inside. This is what I want to convey to you. To withstand and to inoculate yourself from these instruments of change that are being blasted into our collective right now. To withstand those and to stay within your own center, to stay within your own energy and to know what is true from within yourself. You need to be mentally online. You need to stay in constant contact with your thinking. And when I say that, I don't mean constant loop about the same things. That is unconscious thinking. That is ego thinking. That's your ego mind that does that. It just sort of marinates in its own worries, its own doomsday things, its own sort of undifferentiated impulses. No, that's not what I mean. I want you to become a conscious observer of your own thoughts. You have to be online in regards to all judgments, opinions, and views that are forming in you, and whether those are actually yours or not. And if you find out that you have an opinion about something, and trust me, if you actually pay attention to this, you will find that you'll have many opinions about things that you haven't even formed yourself. It's just the way we respond to this outer blast, like whether it is opinions about, politics or, like certain sociological issues, maybe racism or, whatever these topics are that are being used as instruments of change right now, yeah, where we are being influenced in taking on certain beliefs without thinking them for ourselves. That's your job. You have to make sure that when you utter an opinion or when you hear a judgment within yourself, that you know that that's actually coming from you. Why is that important? Because if you cannot make sure that this is something that you have just thought up yourself, that is coming from within yourself, that you are fully agreeing with from within yourself, then you will be made an instrument of change. And that is basically the biggest danger of all of this. It's not the collapse of the monetary system, the loss of value of the euro and the Swiss franc, and and then maybe the collapse of Wall Street, or the supply chain issues, or no heating oil, or no food. Those are all things that are obviously contributing to survival conditions that can be very stressful for us. But this is bigger. This is about hijacking your ability. It's a form of harvesting. Yeah, so I'm always careful using these words because I know they play into some conspiracy theories that are floating around out there, and I'm not really for them. That's not really what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there are elements of that, and when you are being made an instrument of change, just like how this happened in these last 2.5 years through COVID, think about it. The amounts of opinions, the amounts of degradation, the amounts of aggression, of judging, of making others responsible, blaming, and so forth that occurred in our societies. Do you think that everybody was aware of that? We're just having a situation here in the United States. Don't know if you can see this in your news, where our president has COVID for the second time, and he got all the vaccines and all the boosters. And just a year ago, he said that, when you have all the vaccines and all the boosters, you are not responsible for the transmission of COVID, and this pandemic is actually a pandemic of unvaccinated. How does this go together? Yeah, so this is where being online mentally comes in, because that's your power. And how do you use that power? By questioning, not questioning yourself, by questioning your perception. Oh, why am I thinking this right now? Is this actually my thought? Let me think this through. Let me get back to you. Yeah, I see these Twitter exchanges. I see friends getting into feuds over topics, yeah, with that have to do with gender, that have to do with education, that have to do with racism or monetary things and so forth. And they fail at the first question. I mean, when you ask them, well, how did you get there? What makes you think that? What makes you believe that? Exactly, Sean. Discernment is completely missing. So discernment is a higher way of thinking, and that is your first big inoculation tool here, not just for the next week, but you're going to have to practice this in next week and then build on it, or, systematically train it with me with the eryCourse. We're starting tomorrow, and the first live training is going to be next Saturday. So there's still time for you to sign up. Some people ask me if they could pay in installments. Of course you can. Just send me an email and we can make this work for you. Those of you who participate in the eryCourse, by the way, get 50% for our energy healer trainings. So don't believe in anything that you haven't thought through yourself. The second aspect of withstanding this outer distraction, this outer overlay, this, danger of being made an instrument of change is being emotionally online. Why is that important? Because when you are checking out, when you are, not actually allowing yourself to feel what is coming forward here through your inner signals, all right, you are saying to yourself, I don't want to feel myself. right? And instead, I may choose to go drink, or to have, to party, or to play online games, or watch internet porn, or do whatever it is that comes up for you to help you, whatever you use as an instrument to check out emotionally. And why is this important in the bigger context of these things that are going to happen here in the near future? Because when you are not emotionally online with yourself, when you're numbing yourself, or when you're checking out, or when you just, go into the drama of it. So there's these two extremes. You become very, very susceptible to these outer energies. Those are your blind spots, guys. It's your emotions that are your blind spots, and they influence your perception. They influence the way you think, right? Remember the COVID thing. Yeah, we were all afraid of getting COVID, and we were told that was the public opinion. We didn't think that through ourselves. Everybody who could, stay calm and read the science, knew that it was BS. But we all believed that if we get COVID, we die, right? I mean, we may not want to admit that to ourselves anymore, but that was a point where we believed that, because all we could see, we were blasted with it, was the death toll and, all this kind of stuff. Until we had COVID once or twice, and then we realized, oh, well, we're not going to die, okay? And, survival rate actually is 99.7%, yeah, which means, it really isn't a threat to my life, not even statistically, not even scientifically. Yeah, and then with all the other questions that we could ask, does a vaccine, that kind of vaccine, actually help? Does it prevent transmission? Does it, help the immune system and so forth? We could come to our own truth. Yeah, and that happened to be, at that time, against the public truth. And many of us had a struggle with this and needed to be very courageous and overcome our own fears. And that was accomplished through staying emotionally online. Yeah, because you had to really feel into what all this means to you. If you're willing to lose your job, if you're willing to not be able to see family, if you're willing to, sort of deviate in ways, that, would make other people upset, become upset at you or judge you. Yeah, it took a lot of emotional steadfastness, okay, to get through this. Yeah, and we're still in it, so it isn't over yet, guys. I've already mentioned this in the forecast for the year. It's slowly walking up to, the end of September, beginning of October, creating sort of a new a scare around that, and the system's trying to move us into the next phase of change, yeah, which is us accepting, digital ID and all these aspects that make it easier for the systems to control us and to have a sort of financial control over us. So this part of being emotionally online requires you to really feel into the pressures, feel into the things that are building up in you. And maybe this is hard to do this on your own. Yeah, that's where coaches like me come in. Yeah, reflect on, how that makes you more susceptible, for example, to project a different version of you, trying to be someone that you're not, and so forth. There's a sort of a cascade of things that happen when we are not emotionally online, and also obviously when we're not online with our physical needs. Yeah, so our physical needs are right now something that we really need to listen to, because these next the year and a half, 2 years, as I've mentioned before, they're going to become somewhat uncomfortable. And, this fight, flight, or freeze gets triggered a lot when we go through discomfort, when we go through the not knowing what comes next. Yeah, when we go through the fear of the unknown, you need a proper roadmap. And one of the things that I recommend people is to pay attention to their first and second chakra needs. Those are the things that have to do with security, that have to do with, what I need to feel good in myself, with myself. Not to externalize my needs too much. That would be, a weak spot, say, when we're trying to fit in so bad that we are trying to be different, or when we become needy or clingy or something like that in order to get our needs fulfilled. That is called emotional manipulation. So always keep an eye on the flip side of that, because that's then the third aspect, the third inoculation, the third shot, booster shot that I want to give you here for this next week and ongoing, is that you pay attention to what makes you susceptible, where you are incongruent with yourself, where you are violating your own integrity, where you contradict your own values and your own virtues. When you can do these three things, being mentally online, being emotionally online, including your body, and paying attention to what you allow in and to where your blind spots are, okay, then you can embrace this alchemical process of change. Yeah, this, from a metaphysical perspective, the change is always a good thing, okay, because it leads to a renewal of something. It leads to a typically upgrade of something. It's an alchemical process where a substance changes its form. Yeah, like its physical form, its chemical form, and with it the properties. In other words, where a higher expression, a higher version of that, substance, in this case, maybe you becomes possible. A higher expression of your life force energy. When that occurs, when you feel the pressure in you come up, understand that that is not necessarily a bad thing. It's like when you get hit by a virus or bacteria and your body starts developing fever. This fever increases the speed of your molecules in your body, creates a lot of pressure, and that pressure then helps to fight the germs that are trying to make you sick. Yeah? And that is what's happening right now. These kind of outer events that we are looking at here in this next week in particular, okay, they will all trigger our survival, and with it our freezing, yeah, with it our being willing to give up our power and become an instrument of change. Don't let that happen. Focus on what brings clarity into your life, what makes your life easier, what makes your life safer, what makes you more free, what gives you more freedom, what brings you more peace, what is more stable and what is more loving. This is not selfishness, guys. Don't mistake that. Those are the things that can inoculate you. Yeah, because then you can stay calm and in your center, yeah, and still think for yourself and still feel for yourself and still act for yourself. Let's see how all this unfolds. Personally, and this may just be geographically, I see next week as very stormy, very, like a pressure cooker. And around the 27th, 28th of July, I'm kind of expecting here in Florida that we will have quite a few hurricanes that will impact us this summer. Starting from, July 28th onward. That can also translate into different kind of water-related, say, weather conditions, maybe floods and things like this in your area. It depends on what sort of the specifics are. Yeah, in Iceland, for example, there I would relate this more to like underwater volcanoes erupting and things like that. Okay, so it depends on what your geographical composition is, how these energies, these bigger energies, affect you personally. But if you stay online and you utilize your own instruments of change, that is your insurance policy, guys. That is how you cannot become an instrument of change for others. Bear this in mind. Okay. Let me know if you have any comments, if you have any questions. Please comment here. And I see you very soon with the next energy talk. Again, the energy course, the energy awareness training and the mind control training is starting tomorrow, but you can also join a little later. The first live training is next Saturday. See you very soon. Bye-bye.